In this video, I'm going to explain about the common misconceptions about herbaceous perennials. Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. First off, I will provide a definition for herbaceous perennials. Herbaceous means that the plant has non-woody stems that reach their full height and produce flower within 1 year before dying back over the winter and then reappearing the following spring, ready for a repeat performance. The term perennial essentially means that the plant will live for more than 2 years. Probably not so much these days, but at least 20 years ago, you would have had a lot of people having all of these misconceptions about these beautiful plants, herbaceous perennials. What were the problems that they saw with them? First one, they look dead during the winter. Well, that's not strictly true, they're just hibernating. But then so do a lot of trees, so do a lot of shrubs. All you're left with deciduous trees and shrubs are beautiful silhouettes, I have to admit. But you get exactly the same with your herbaceous perennials. There are beautiful seed heads, there are beautiful structures of leaf, there are semi-evergreen. And those are all the ones that people have realised. There was always this big thing, herbaceous borders had to be cut right down to the ground, it had to be mulched round, look fantastically tidy. That is something that is left over from the Victorian era, when everything needed to be tidy, it needed to be absolutely spick and span. Well, that's not the case nowadays with the more naturalistic and people understanding that if you leave all of the top growth there on your perennials, you're actually protecting them, because who cuts them down out in nature? Who tidies them up? Well, that does tend to be the animals and everything else, but if you've got your garden protected, then they wouldn't be doing that cutting down until the spring. So the spring is the time for tidying up your perennials. So something like this beautiful Epimedium here has had fantastic foliage on it all through the autumn into the winter, and then come the spring, now you've got these sticks which are left on here, and you can cut all of these off, because what you really need to see are these amazingly beautiful, lovely young shoots with the flowers coming through now. The foliage shoots are coming down later on. This is a plant that I haven't got round to cutting back, but I can give it a trim up. So that is what people were thinking of was looking dead. But these lovely autumn orange colours of leaf giving you ground cover underneath trees and shrubs, absolutely fantastic. And it means that the leaf falls down, protects the crown. The crowns of the plants are not getting as badly frosted. So that is the reason for doing the spring cleaning. Hard to look after. Well, are they any more hard to look after than, say, a shrub that requires 2 lots of pruning a year? Roses? I mean, for heaven's sake, the amount of time you have to spend deadheading a rose, giving it the correct pruning back, mulching it, that takes time. So perennials don't really take an awful lot of time. In the spring, all you probably have to do is remove old dead haulm like this, probably weed out the crowns. Well, you'll be weeding your beds anyway. Then you get to see the beauty of these plants coming up and springing back into life, which is fantastic. So they aren't really that difficult to look after. It's all about right plant, right place. As long as they're in the right location, they will grow well. They won't get too leggy, therefore you don't have to do too much staking. And if you plant them next to a shrub, the shrub works as your staking. So that is all of those sort of myths taken away there. Only look good when they're in flower. When you think of shrubs and trees, you're looking at structure. You're looking at the way the leaf unfurls in the spring. You're looking at the flowering time, and then they carry on and they create a good effect. It's exactly the same with herbaceous perennials. So once something like this Epimedium sulphereum here has had all of this foliage cut off, this dead foliage cut off, you get to see the flowers first. Then the leaf comes up, the leaf unfurls. It looks fantastic. Inside here there are some really beautiful little bronze leaves. Now they are that size, they are going to become this size. So they've got an awful lot of growing to do. They've got to grow from being something which is, and I will cut this off, something that is being as small as this. It's like watching a child grow. You've got tiny little beautiful leaf like so, which is going to turn into big leaf like that. So as it does that and as it develops, it is as interesting as a shrub or anything else. It is creating that ground cover. This leaf will change from being this beautiful bronze right the way through to green with a little bit of lines of orange on it and that sort of thing. And then into the autumn it becomes a beautiful colour, and then it lasts all the way through the winter as this wonderful foliage which you just leave there until the spring. So that is really good. Something like this Uvalaria here, we took off all of this growth and we were left with these beautiful spikes here. Now, these are going to mature. It is already putting on these beautiful yellow flower spikes. They're going to come up and they're going to drop like bells. They will look stunning. They're about the same colour as my jacket. Lovely foliage, which is just going to create and go up. So they are going to look good. Then once they've finished, their seed heads look fantastic. So there's always interest on the plants. The Centurea here, this is going to have wonderful purple and white flowers on it. This one's called Purple Heart. The grey foliage at the moment, making a beautiful mat. Then the flowers come up and these amazing cornflower flowers come up on the top here. The buds look fantastic. When you look at them closely, the buds have got these amazing black edging to the actual bracts on the bud itself. Everything has got interest, and then as the flowers die back down, you give it a haircut and you've got the foliage. So that one's going to look really good through there. Also with the Silene fimbriata, which I love the colour of this actual foliage here. It's going to go up. It'll be somewhere around about 3 foot tall, 90 centimetres to a metre. And when the buds start, they're beautiful green, and then it opens up to a frilled white flower. Really superb, wonderful thing. So when you put these all together, and although these wouldn't necessarily go in the same position, you can see what I mean by there is definitely interest in these plants when they are not in flower. How about that for a combination? They just show each other off, and that's what you've got to be thinking about. And it is all about right plant, right place. So they are architectural in their own right, and as they grow, so they change. And that is a really beautiful thing to watch, just in the same way as you watch your shrubs come into flower and everything else. So they do have a big whoosh when they're in flower, but while they're growing, while they have their seed heads, that still looks wonderful also. The last one of my misconceptions is the fact that previously landscapers had a limited palette. They were only using, landscape designers were only using, say, 5 herbaceous perennials. We used to be able to tell which school of landscape design these people came from because they all came with the same 5 plants that they wanted. And the one that sticks in my mind the most of the ones that they used to have listed was Anemone honorée Joubert. They'd have that, they'd have a fern, they'd have a hosta, probably a hardy geranium. And then they might even think of something themselves because they'd seen something in colour when they came in. But it was a very limited palette because people had this misconception that hardy perennials are difficult to look after, which, as I have said, they aren't. So now we get this wonderful new feeling, a new thought that we want to be more naturalistic. And you can do that even in quite a small area. And By that we mean that we're not tidying the plants up all the time. We are leaving the seed heads there. We are allowing the plants to overwinter in their natural way. And this has all come about by people like Pate Oldalf and other people with the Dutch wave, where the plants are put in a way that you see them going through the seasons as they naturally would. They're not being chopped down to ground level and made to be absolutely perfect. They're allowed to occasionally flop. The seed heads are left there. Brilliant for the birds, brilliant for the wildlife. So this idea of the naturalistic planting has really shown the way that you can use lots and lots of different types of herbaceous perennials, from the Peters, Veronicastrums, through Heliopsis, Heleniums, grasses, all sorts of different plant material is now being used. And it's great, and it's really made people who want to breed plants, want to use plants, want to try new things. That is something that I really do want people to understand. The naturalistic planting is something that I have always enjoyed doing, and I love the way that gardens can be changed and become from those formal ideas into much more naturalistic. And this is something that I'm going to carry on through the year. We will have a look at. It goes with the fact that I started as cottage garden plants, and that is still a naturalistic way of planting. Mixing cottage garden plants and the naturalistic planting together just seemed like the evolutionary path for me to take with the way that I want people to be able to use and enjoy their perennial plants. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to watch another video of mine, YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you.